So, dear colleagues, hello again, and we are delighted to welcome you here on OTM Digital Days conference. I'm glad to see you in this very warm environment. You're welcome to take the coffee in here, and I'm delighted to announce that the second part of our conference is just about to start. We'll have a panel discussion, and it will be about the cornerstone of marketing, which is this. We have an advertising budget. We spend it for activities and events, and we ask ourselves a question. Those contests or those advertising campaigns, the focused and targeted advertising, how does that translate itself into sales? How does that translate itself into the number of tourists? So how can we measure it? And now I'm delighted to introduce our speakers to you. These are those people who professionally measure marketing. They know exactly how much it costs you run an activity, and they know exactly the return on every ruble invested. Rafael Gabriel, the head of Customer Service Department from Action Global Communications. These companies play an important part in the Russian market, and it may be a secret for some of you, but I can say that a big number of today's speakers actually work in offices of governmental tourist organizations, and a lot of people here in the hall come from these organizations. They represent the key countries on the Russian market, and these agencies work with these countries and they promote these countries here in Russia, like Dubai expert case. It was done by the Action Global Communication team. Victoria Mukanova, head of tourism department of Aviareps. Aviareps is one of the biggest representational companies. And they have high-tech awards, but Victoria will tell us in a bit more detail about it. Maxim Samoilenko, the head marketing director of Real Web. They work with large tour operators and airlines, so they have good experience. And Alexei Ivanov will moderate this discussion today. Alexei Ivanov, please meet him. One of the best partners of Yandex in terms of education and training. Also the head of IC marketing. And Alessia Aleynikova from Profi.Travel. I will also participate in this discussion. Alexei, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, dear friends. I understand that some of you are still having their coffee. Well, those people who miss panel discussion will have a dip in sales this year, so we are lucky to be here on time. So we'll have a brief talk and then a discussion. So, Rafael, please, the floor is yours. You're the first. Good afternoon. My name is Rafael Gableran, and I'm the head of Action Global Communications. It's an agency, and I will be theorizing in front of you today. And my talk will be about C2C marketing concept. I will briefly first tell you about Action Global Communications. What is it? And we'll also touch upon tourism and tourist market and about global market trends. And then we'll talk in a bit more detail about the C2C idea and the tools which are available for you. So Action Global Communications was incorporated 46 years ago in Cyprus, and as of today, it's one of the biggest European networks of communication agencies. We are represented in 41 countries, and within that period of time, we had an opportunity to grow our business in different countries and not only in Europe. And the first contract of Action Global Communication with BA was the first PR contract in the history of aviation industry. It was signed in 1971. As you can see, our network is growing and we are well represented in European countries, in the Middle East, in Northern Africa, and Russia and CIS. Of course, we have a Moscow office, and it's one of our head offices. It's a regional center together with our regional center in Nicosia and Dubai. We opened an office in Moscow in 2002, and we have long-standing traditions. So we signed the first contract in Russia with BA. We have been working in the market for 15 years already, and I think we had an ample chance to demonstrate our adherence to tourist business, travel business, and here we have some logos representing our customers. And let's talk briefly about what's happening in the tourist market today. Just to add more significance to the event we are having now. In line with the recent statistics from WTO, the number of tourist arrivals in the world amounted to 1,342,000,000, or in other words, 7% growth as compared to last year, which is quite a lot. Here we can see a breakdown of these figures by different markets, and different markets perform differently, but global growth of 7% is a worthy figure. Another survey, another research done by Travel and Tourism Council, there is a lot of figures here, and this presentation will be available to you after our panel discussion, but I'd like to draw your attention to two figures. First one, every 10th job in the world is somehow related to tourism, and the second figure is in the upcoming 10 years, tourist sector will account for 23% of newly created jobs. That just underscores the importance of the industry we work in. Now, back to what C2C is about. We had a chance to listen to previous speakers, and they delivered some interesting cases. So let's theorize about it a bit. We all know about B2B and B2C things. And now I'd like to draw your attention to C2C, or customer to customer, or client to client, whichever is best for you. And for ourselves, we define C2C as an evolution of a marketing model which takes experience of the end customer as a foundation and translates it into different types of promotion. We'll talk about different promotional tools and those which are best performing ones. But first, I would like to mention the reasons for this evolution. What happened that brought us to this evolution? That was determined by the technological leap forward. Facebook, iPhone, all these things combined together impacted the way we live now. Millennials, I think you have already read a lot about the features of the millennials, so I will not be talking about that in detail. Increasing the increased number of mobile screens, this is one of the key features of the Z generation. Z generation means those people who were born after 1996. And crisis of trust. That's a very important thing. We'll talk about it later. So here we have the C2C tools, which in our belief are the main ones. UGC is user-generated content, another abbreviation. This is the key one. And as you can see, UGC overlaps with lots of other tools like opinion leaders, influencers, hashtags, social media communities, stars, and celebrities.
Итак, перейдем.
So,
Есть тут очень интересное исследование компании
we have a
Profi,
very interesting
которое
research
более
here,
подробно по
and
СМУ, как
I
на
think
первый взгляд это
that
будет завершено.
it will be
Те
available
цифры, которые я хотел
after
бы обратить
our
внимание,
event is
это следующие
completed. There are two
проценты
figures here which we
опрошенных
should
респондентов считают
pay
UGC
attention to.
более
76% of
достоверным
respondents believe
источником
that
таких
UGC
публикаций, чем рекламные публикации.
UGC
Мне кажется, это
texts
очень
are
важно,
more
и это такой
straightforward and
симптом,
more
что
trustworthy than just
нужно
advertising.
начать, если не делать,
And if you're not doing it yet,
модель
then you
успеха.
probably
Давайте
should
начнем нашу
start doing this.
рекламу.
Use this
Вторая
in your
цифра– это
marketing
то, что
campaigns. And the
цена
second
посты
point
Google
is
доверяют
that
UGC постам в социальных сетях
people
чем
trust
рекламным.
UGC posts in
Цифра
social
следует
media seven
международным
times more
исследований, потому
than just
что
advertising posts.
travel
I think
контент,
we
если
are
говорить
in a
о travel
privileged position
исследованиях,
here
для
because
того,
travel
касается marketing
content,
контент, люди больше доверяют, то
travel
оказывается, что
content, I
по
think
travel контенту они будут доверять
uh,
гораздо больше, еще
people
чем
will
даже
trust travel content
если
even
говорить
more
о
as
проходящем
compared
заказе
to,
по предмету.
let's say UGC content related to
Тоже интересно
beverages
показать
or
результаты
credit cards.
исследования. Для нас
Um,
я хотел обратить внимание вот
so
на
another page from
форматы,
that
несмотря на то, что
survey, please
сейчас
pay attention to the
восприятие
format.
алгоритмами
Now
социальных
the
сетей больше и
social
больше внимания
media
уделяется
algorithms
видеоконтенту,
are
несмотря на
changing
то, что
now
42%
with more
опрошенных
focus being
больше
shifted on video
предпочитают
content. But anyway,
фотографии, нежели
72% of
видеоконтент.
people are
Ну
more
и
attracted by
платформы
photos rather than
единственного.
videos. In terms of
Единственное
platforms, this
исследование взято
breakdown
США и
is not
Европе,
surprising at all, but that research was done in US and Europe. This is why
Так, ну и теперь
the list of
перейдем
options
к
misses
примерам
Russian
по
social
каждому
media.
инструменту. Давайте еще раз их вспомним.
Examples to
Это было Profi,
illustrate
инфлюенсеры, блоги, всякие блоги,
each and every of these tools:
сообщества в социальных
websites,
сетях. Осталось
hashtags,
сказать
communities, and
про
geotags.
имплементацию из этих
I will
инструментов
deliver one
и
case
начнем
per every of these
с
tools,
геотегов.
and we'll start with
Ну, чем
hashtags
это
and
более
geotags.
представителен,
It is
чем
difficult to find a
ключевой Dubai,
more representative
потому
uh,
что задача,
uh,
которая изначально ставилась
example than
пользователям,
hashtag
была
made to buy,
абсолютно выполнена и она
because
перевыполнена.
they delivered
Если мы
against the
изначально хотели
target
бы
which they
просто
had.
взять
Because
задачу сделать
originally,
B2C агрегатор,
they
просто
wanted to have a
поделить
UGC aggregator, which could be used by
абсолютно
those who live in the
пользователю,
Emirates and
грубо
those who
говоря,
travel to the
предоставляется
Emirates.
аккредитация, то
And
есть
as of the end
аккредитация
of
одного
January,
провайдера
when I
составит
worked on that
24
presentation,
миллиона. То
the
есть
number of
24 миллиона
publications
раз
in Instagram was
соответственно,
24
вместе с вами
million.
ваш
So
опыт,
24 million times people
человек,
shared
который
their Dubai experience.
действительно
And imagine how
инфлюенсер,
many
это такая
people
достаточно
were
мощная
exposed to
организация
this
вокруг этого.
content.
От
So they are doing a lot to popularize this
культур
hashtag. So they have
традиционные
these
проекты на
sculptures in the
новых
middle of the city,
контент-центрах
and they have these
до диджитал проектов
projections on the key attractions, and they
организаторов,
have
которые
big
очень
digital
здорово
projects
известны. Я думаю,
based on
что здорово известны.
programmatic principles and the use
Какие
of
либо
big data.
публикуются и внедряются в различные
Hashtags
промо-активности.
are used over the
Здесь
course of
такая
various promo
известная
activities,
история
and
с
that
поездкой в Дубай,
well-known
известной
story
поездкой в Дубай.
about
Суть
related to the
публикаций
trip of Pavel Voля and Laysan
Дубай,
Uchasheva to
соответственно,
Dubai,
у них было
and
30
they attached My Dubai hashtag to their
публикаций двоих,
publications. They had
которые
31
имели
posts
общий
for between the two of them,
стилем.
and the overall
То
reach
есть
of that content was above
выступали
17 million people.
инфлюенсеров
So,
разных стран,
involving
которые
influencers and celebrities is an important component of C2C marketing model. So, Pavel Voля and Laysan Uchasheva are bringing us to this very, very important tool. And I will use a different example to illustrate this point. We had a project with Etihad Airways together with Chalcedonia and Seychelles Islands Tourism Organization. That was a large-scale project which took us 6 months to implement. So we had contests in social media, in stores, involving celebrities. The most interesting one was when we organized a trip for 20 influencers and celebrities on Etihad Airways to Seychelles Islands. So we had the branding of 213 stores, more than 40 posts with posts of Etihad Airways planes and Etihad products in the social media accounts of celebrities. So those were the results of that advertising campaign. So quite positive. Another point regarding the importance of use of celebrities and influencers. Together with the Minister of Tourism of Israel, we agreed that we can add more vibrancy to press tours, and we took Olga Medinch and to Israel and set up a trip for her. So her user-generated content become the basis for the large publication in OK Magazine and on the website and then the hard copy version of the magazine. At that point in time, she had more than 2 million subscribers. So even the use of classical instruments can be adopted into the C2C model. Opinions websites are extremely important for us, especially given the fact that we represent hotels. Like, for example, we represent Savoy Group. So we have a redirect from TripAdvisor to their page in Facebook, so that you could have an option of viewing other comments without actually leaving the TripAdvisor page. Very important tool, and one of the text-based types of GC. Raphael, you're running out of time. Users are writing me that you're which users? I'm on the same chat. And as an icing on the cake, I would mention the social media web pages which we have prepared for the Ministry of Tourism for the Republic of Dominicana, and that finally resulted in 7% organic growth in the number of these tourist-related communities. We share the posts of influencers and celebrities and stars which rest in the resorts in the Republic. We have a strong belief in UGC content because it creates a meaningful link between a brand and a consumer. And our agency creates these meaningful connections. That's what our business is about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I apologize, but this is my role. I need to hurry everyone up. And please get ready for some tricky questions. And I am giving the mic to Victoria. Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Can you switch my slides on, please? Put them on the screen. I'm from company Avia Rebs. I'm not going to tell you for a long time what we do and who we are. Just a couple of words. We have airlines and tourism, two major areas. And today I'm going to tell you about tourism in terms of tourist offices and the destinations that we represent. Avia Rebs, well, I will stand up now. It's more comfortable for me. Avia Rebs does the meetings of CEOs every year, and it gives the areas of development for next year. And the word digital is really the buzzword. In 47 countries, this digital topic became very relevant for all tourist offices. And we even have the award for the most creative digital office. And we will learn the results in May. And our Russian office has also been really focusing on digital. And the customers that we represent are here on the screen. We have a broad geography. These are the long-standing clients, the new ones such as Bahrain. And it's all the countries with mostly individual bookings, such as Hong Kong and Bahrain, where 90% of the flow goes via the tour operator. So With all these customers, we are focusing on the online platforms since last year. Even if it's offline, we are trying to duplicate them in online platforms. So what do we do? What's our main approach? We use the so-called vortex of conversion. So first of all, we try to introduce knowledge for our target audience. We tell everyone about our beautiful country. After this knowledge comes the image. And earlier, before the crisis, most of our campaigns were based just on the two aspects, knowledge and image. And we just had some awareness building campaigns, advertising image campaigns. So our main role was awareness building and passing on information to our target audience. During the crisis, when customers started to cut budgets, we stepped up our activities. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, we can't afford the luxury of image alone campaigns. So now we went deeper into that vortex. We moved on to a new level, involvement and sales. So what tools do we use? These are the most frequent tools. That's what we used last year: online video, programmatic banners, and SMM, Facebook mostly. As to online videos, online videos are becoming larger now, and we have chosen the approach of payment for the full view of our clip. If someone has seen a clip on a voluntary basis on YouTube, that means this is the target audience. So you can see this simplified scheme of our classical work. This is how we promote our digital areas. That means, first, we use the programmatic video. That is, we tell everyone who we show this video to and what filters we use. This includes the sex, the geography, and the interests. And we only do the payments for complete views, and we also have the programmatic banners who only go to the audience who has seen these videos. This means that we make our audience even narrower. We have the Google double click bit manager system, which functions very well, and it builds appropriate filters so that we know who is our target audience. And now that this audience has become even narrower, we are calling them for action. We do not do sales directly. We don't work with the clients directly. So how do we use those sales? We are partners of airlines with other colleagues, with tour operators, of course. And this is how we convert all these programs to their platforms, and we know very well what results we achieve. I have a few examples on this scheme. Very frequently, we do the special landing page on our country, which allows our visitors to read something about our country, and furthermore, the booking system is integrated into this landing page. Here is an example on the tourism in Hong Kong. We did it together with Finnair, and Finnair provided us with special tariffs from Moscow and St. Petersburg. And we did these special programmatics. We did a clear targeting on Moscow and St. Petersburg, and our landing page was directly on the basis of the airline box office. That is, we had this box office which used media support. We did the placement programmatics, and we also used the context. And the digital tools are also great. as well as the placement programmatics, because during this placement we can optimize our campaign. That is, if the results are pretty low after the first week, it means that the banners are not so interesting for our target audience. So we can change the banners, we can change the banner messages, we can step up this interest and improve our indicators. So we had 102 bookings on our box offices thanks to this campaign that we did. Another example that I chose for you today is the promotion of a country via an event. Since recently, we've been trying to go away from the positioning of a specific country, everything for everyone, because we have a lot of competition. Every country says that it suits every taste, every interest, and we seek to find some specific advantage of a country. In Mauritius, for example, there's the topic of surfing, and it's really interesting now. We used Facebook and Instagram, and we focused on 3 target audience. Based on those audiences, we had different logos, and we had, well, actually, we promoted an event like Mauritius kite jump, and then the user could click a specific button, and then we placed the news and information on this country. So this was the first ring, all right. And now you can see the visual materials that we had on Facebook, on Instagram. This campaign was targeted for this specific audience, and then we kept working with this audience that liked our page or became interested in it. So you had a lot of likes on your page and a lot of shares as well. So these are the KPIs that we used for this campaign: the coverage, the views, the clicks. And we also looked at the behavior of those who got interested in this event, whether there were some applications left on our web page, and we looked at parts of our website that were the most visited. And those 2 cases were really successful in terms of both quality and quantity indicators. There was a great conversion rate. That's it for me now. Great. Thank you. Now I pass the floor to Maxim. I hope that you will be within this schedule, 10 minutes sharp. Well, I have no other option. I just need a clicker. I'm going to sit if you permit me, because I'm too lazy and too tall. My name is Maxim Samolenko. I am director of the marketing agency Real Web, and I'm really grateful to the organizers. What is Real Web? If you've never seen it, it means I work badly. But this is a leading agency which has 300 employees. It's a partner of many technological platforms. We've received lots of licenses and certificates. We work with the largest brands. We're not an agency which works specifically with the tourist agency, with the tourist industry, but we have experience of working in this sector, and we work with Russian Airlines, which is a major brand. Today, I'm going to talk about some simple but conceptual things. I'm just going to bring across a few ideas that I think are important. The first idea, digital transformation, which is also a buzzword today. The world has changed. We can't ignore it. We are too interconnected. For example, I'm sitting here in front of you, and in the evening, I might be in London, and I don't need anything except for my smartphone. I will buy everything via my smartphone. The tickets for AV Express, the tickets for the airplane. And if you take my smartphone away from me, I will die from hunger. And with my smartphone, I can buy anything. And this is content consumption behavior that is changing as we are sitting here. The number of mobile phones and smartphones keeps growing, and the concentration of people in a certain facility is falling because people don't want to think, they want to watch videos, put likes, and so on. And this really affects the advertising market because just a few years ago, when people watched TV and had advertising, this means they watched advertising on TV a few years ago, but not any longer. They just switch on their mobile phones. Omnichannel, what is about? The traditional approaches to buying services and products have changed, and they are now interconnected. So if there is an offline outlet and an online activity, we don't know where a person learned about your company. A person can buy your product via a huge number of partners and in a huge number of sales. And this is the vortex of sales. Now that you do marketing promotion, I don't think there is any point in explaining this thing to you. But this vortex does not look like it looked in the classical books any longer. It has changed radically because the user at any stage can move on to any other stage of the vortex, and the user can go to a different vortex which is not yours. You can actually convince your consumer that he or she needs to take a rest, and then the competitor will get everything. But you will do all the preparatory work. But it also works the other way around. So obviously, going back to the major message of our gathering, each channel plays the role of a vortex, and we need to be based on your specific tasks. If you promote some new services or products, then it's obvious that if you just divide your sales by the money you spend, you will not meet this task. But you are just forming the brand. So there is no universal clear-cut answer to the question, how do I measure the efficiency of my vortex? It all depends on the interests of your business, because no matter what cool metrics you learn, it will not help. Okay, I'll try to be brief. This means that if you learn some metrics, then there is a guy with a drill who makes some noise. Yeah, this is a nice confirmation of that. So let's move on. We are going further. There are probably dozens of metrics and beautiful acronyms. Today, people are talking about performance marketing. That is marketing which is fully based on figures. But I want to turn your attention to the fact that it's impossible to calculate everything. You will make some assumptions, you will accept something or not, but of course you can do some analytics, and you can do Google Analytics and start to bring this information together. There are systems of call following, and you can actually calculate everything up to the last ruble. And so what am I driving at? Going back to the fact that we are working with a huge company, with a huge airline. Last year, we did a great case, a really cool case with our partners. This looks like a contact with extraterrestrials. And to do this, you need a lot of data. And our partners have this data because they get a lot of information. Of course, everyone of those of you who are present here has flown somewhere, so those guys have your information. And secondly, contemporary technologies allow us to match those data. There are Yandex platforms, there are Google Mail, Mail Target, there are a lot of advertising platforms, and you can find your clients there. So what we did within this case, we looked at the internal data of airlines. We looked at their marginality between different segments of users. So we just split this audience into segments, and we analyzed those segments. So what was our result? We were able to segment our audience in such a way that there is this throughput analytics for each segment from beginning to end. Should I finish now? All right, just one more idea, but I have forgotten that idea. Okay, that's not so important. This is a very simple story. It might be the case that if you calculate your whole audience and put money in your whole vortex, you will be suffering losses. But whenever you split this vortex into segments, you can see the marginal and non-marginal segments, and you can use most of your advertising for the most lucrative users. Thank you.
Как удобно сделан звонок, он сбивается.
That ring is actually very convenient. It mixes you up completely, and you can hand over to the next speaker. So, thank you, Alexei. I was very delighted to listen to the talks from our colleagues because they were almost disclosing their commercial secrets. Thank you very much for being so open in telling us how that actually works. I'll tell you now about Profi.Travel. And Profi.Travel is not only the company which organized today's event, and I'll briefly tell you about Profi.Travel. For over 10 years, Profi.Travel has been a media portal operating in Russia and CIS. And we have big reach. We are known by all travel agencies and tour operators. So we are a media platform. We have our own editorial office, not only here in Russia, but also in the CIS countries. We have large mailing database, and we have more than 50,000 views a day. This is not the only thing that we are doing. We're also setting up big online activities. Today I told you about Online Travel Mart exhibition. That's a 2-week event. So it's a number of landing pages which for 2 or 3 weeks host educational activities for travel companies. So it also includes summer exhibition in which is attended by airlines, tour operators, travel agencies, national tourist offices, and they tell about the offers for the current summer season, which finally prepares tour operators for summer sales. Currently, we have more than 60 exhibitors and more than 3,000 travel agencies participating in this exhibition. So the approach we take to performance and efficiency is based on the following thing. Every time we have a project on Profi.Travel platform, we assign specific KPIs to them. So all our presentations on the OTM exhibition, we have speakers, we have live questions, you see live broadcasts. And like today, for example, we have more than 100 people sitting here in the hall. So give or take a dozen. But in online segment, we have more than 250 people listening to us. So if we put these figures together, we'll get more than 500. So online, in a number of cases, may indeed be more efficient than offline. So we also have special projects like Online Academy for National Tourist Offices. So these are websites which host 2 or 3 days seminars or educational activities or theme websites which are focused on selling a particular tourist project. Apart from that, we have B2B offline activities and comprehensive advertising campaigns in the interests of the national tourist organizations. So all our projects are efficiency and performance based. So we are heavily focusing on this. And last year we ran more than 80 special projects for countries like Czech Republic, Greece, Monaco, Israel, and a number of others. We had up to 7 online events just for our partners like tour companies or regions of Russia and national tourist offices of different countries, and also some special events. So what are these events about? So what is it that we do there? Well, at a certain point in time, we realized that there is a need for educating us and our customers. So we work in the B2B segment, so we need to be educating people around us. So we came up with this B2B format, and 3 or 4 years ago, we were the first company who ran the online academy activity. Yes, we snatched the idea from abroad, but it was heavily and widely copied here in the Russian market. Almost every tour operator now have something in this format, but Profi.Travel remains the key traffic generator, and we are setting up events which are most heavily attended. So here we can see the Club Med case, a 2-day training. And Club Med, what is Club Med? Is it a tour operator or a number of resorts? Well, it's both. Within these 2 or 3 days, our customers found out everything about luxury product and luxury resorts from Club Med. So they come, they attend the presentation, they ask questions, they do the test, they get their certificate, and after that they win some prizes or rewards. More than 516 agencies signed up for this course, and more than 130 travel agents got their educational certificates, which is quite a lot for a luxury segment. There is a number of other projects like Dubai Parks, for example, but we try to be as creative as possible, and we wanted to have a project with in my beloved Dubai. It's entertainment park in Dubai. It's an interactive map, so you can click on it, and so you can hover your cursor over anything on the map and find out what's going on in that particular location. So we trained travel agencies, and we got 37 37 tickets booked in several years. And 37 may not be a lot, but these tickets are quite costly. So for a brief period of time, this is quite a good result. So 2,300 users and a lot more views. The breakthrough in efficiency was achieved this year when we came up with Profi.Travel loyalty system, and you already heard about this from our partner Abu Dhabi. This is the program where all educational programs were put into one system, and all it takes is to get registered once a year, and then you become exposed to these educational programs, you undergo these tests, and you are capable to book products of those partners who educated you. So we're taking a look at these bookings, and we score points, and they compete heavily for these points. And so we had a live case, and it was quite a successful story. We had more than 6,000 users who compete for these scoring points, more than 5,000 bookings, and that system was not ramped up yet. We were just working on it, but it was good result, and we put more projects on this system. For example, a case was Czech Airlines. We had a special project with them, and within 6 months, travel agents were educated, they got more and more information, and then they finally booked. So within these 6 months, we got 369 bookings of tours and airline tickets through Czech Airlines. That kind of approach helps you understand how much you invested into marketing and what was an upshot. So how many bookings did you get in B2B segment? So we are focusing on efficiency, never mind what we do. And in B2B segment, that's probably a bit simpler than in B2C. And this is our idea of being efficient. That's how we see it. Okay, thank you very much. And now I will be the next speaker. And we have I have two talks, one now and another one at 2:30 about advertising. So let me introduce myself first. I'm the head of an advertising agency, which from the end of the previous millennium have been getting more and more customers via internet. Because before, 10 years ago, there was no context-based advertising. But the key thing is there is business and business needs customers. And that's what we deliver. We work with travel agencies and tour operators. And just to give you an idea how much I love them, it took me 4.5 hours today to come here. I think I could have traveled to here from Yekaterinburg within this time. I want to tell you now about technological impact upon the market, because when we talk about efficiency, you can stick with the old ways we go without having much understanding of what has actually changed. We talked a lot about digital things today, and that's a bit out of date already. We need to understand where we are going. We need to measure efficiency, and we need to stick with new ways and new ideas. So what Yandex knows about a user. When we talk about the profile of your target audience, you can have, let's say, 5, 7, maybe 10 attributes, like base income, occupation, social status, marital status. So there will be a number of attributes assigned to this profile. Yandex knows a lot about the user. When you go into the internet, your browser uses cookies. Yandex has 1 billion cookies in Russia. 700 million are attributed to bots and anonymous clicks. So they are using their hashtags, so they have some activity in the internet. However, 300 million stands for true people, real people. We access internet from desktops, laptops, from smartphones or tablets, and we are doing that through different browsers. But Yandex tried to merge activity of all different people from different types of devices and narrowed these 300 million to 60 million of true or live people. So Yandex is capable of understanding that a person who is going into the internet from the smartphone, from the desktop, and from the tablet is the same person. So they are tracking your behavior in the internet. They have the likelihood the forecast of likelihood. Let's say if you have a tablet computer at home used by different people, now Yandex experts say that within a few minutes after you handed over your tablet to somebody else, they realize that the user switched and they realized who that new user is. So what is the benefit of this? Yandex can collect all the information about users. Where did they go? What were they looking for? All sorts of other indirect data which Yandex can obtain from its partners. Location coordinates. You think Yandex does not know where you are? Let's say if you have one Russian application installed on your smartphone and there is Yandex metrics there. So Yandex knows where you were and when. So even if you burn your smartphone now, there is enough data on you for you to become the target of advertising. So let's say you travel down the garden ring in your car and Yandex knows who saw a billboard. So if you were at the traffic lights, at the red traffic lights, so you took a longer view of the billboard. If you traveled in a bus, it's unlikely that you had a chance to see it. So there are lots of things from the offline which can be linked to your online behavior. Before, we used to build a user profile and try to show advertising to these users. Okay, let's say we have a number of people who used to travel to Germany. So we provide this information to Yandex, and Yandex segmentizes these users, and not only Yandex finds these people, but Yandex is capable of identifying all devices which these people use to access internet. So Yandex will be sending you adverts on all your devices, let's say your tablets or smartphones. Or you can say, for example, you can identify location. Let's say I'm interested in these people who are in this building or in this location getting this ad. So location of your competitors or location of a visa center, whatever. Think about the possible place where your customers may be. Like, for example, the tax office number 46. If you went there, that means that you had to register your business or deregister it. So probably they need accounting services or whatever. What else can this give us? Interacting with your customers. So you have your own customer base. You send them emails. They are not reading it. So the smaller and smaller number of people are reading that. Let's say I'm getting mails from Airflot, but I'm hardly opening these mails. I know that this is Airflot special offers. I'll look at it later, but I don't open it then. So now we know lots of things about a user, and we know that there is, let's say, another 150 people who are like you. And if you want to interact with your audience, or not your audience, but with a new audience, you can show them some advert, let's say, some commercial. Let's say you want to introduce a new destination. And let's say if you have the contact details of travel operators, you send them this advert. And then you contact them again, and they say, well, yes, I have read about it already. So probably only this 1,000 people saw your advert, but it has a bigger effect. So interaction with the audience. So these people will keep getting consistent adverts on all the devices. So let's say you left your personal email address when you booked a tour, but people will be getting their adverts on their desktops at the office also, because a lot of people are actually going for this option. Just look through the pictures, and then at home you view the video fragment. Just a brief case regarding looking for alike users. So we take the user database, we segment it by different parameters, let's say by countries, by types of trips, by booking times. We put it into Yandex, and here we see, let's say, 169. Let's say, 69% are women, and they are alike. We don't know how much they are alike, but Yandex understands that they are alike. And we are asking Yandex, find me those people who already have mountain skiing experience. So we narrow down, we have another database of contacts, and we see to what extent these contacts overlap. We see to what extent these user profiles overlap. So and we send them advertising, so marketing is about technology now. Marketing is about providing users with tailored advertising. Let's say there is no point in So you advertise, let's say, surfing for mothers with 3 kids, and they think, well, that's exactly what we wanted. So when we access social media, we get our personalized news feed. I mean, you will not be able to find an identical news feed as at somebody else's profile because we are getting the news that we are interested in. So that's the future of this technology. And I'm coming to an end of the, let's say, talking session, and now we'll start our discussion. And the first thing I would like to ask, Rafael, let's say I will ask you this question. We have been talking about efficiency. How do we measure efficiency in the tourist industry? Various tourist ministries and various offices have various KPIs. Some want to measure in heads, or let's say in people, which is a tricky thing to measure because that involves a lot of calculations. Some use standard KPIs.
Some people look at engagements, and of course, there are different tasks. We've done projects for the Dominican Republic, and the goal was to involve additional users in their social media. That's also a KPI. Maybe it will not result in more tourists, but this is what we needed at a specific stage, which means that different tourism offices have different tasks. And we have KPIs, and the question is whether those KPIs fit those business tasks, business goals, because every office has its own business goals, right? Yes, most tourism offices are non-for-profit organizations. They don't sell anything. You can't buy anything from them. Yes, but they do this so that people come to their country and leave money there. So it's also about financial goals. Yes, in the end. And those intermediary KPIs, are they connected with more people coming to this country? What if right now the number? Well, so is there a connection between the number of subscribers on Instagram and the number of tourists coming to the country? Yes, of course, but we need to understand that if the tour operator knows only about the beaches, let's say in Dominican Republic, then it will only sell beaches. And the Ministry of Tourism wants to talk about the cultural tourism, about Santo Domingo ecotourism. So you can tell all about this to the final user or to the agent. If it's the final user, then it's Instagram. If it's to the agent, then it goes via some B2B platforms. And if a person is interested, he or she comes to the agency or enters the website, area sales, and so on, and looks for a specific place about which he or she would not have learned if we hadn't spread this information. Maxim, can I ask you a question? You are a performance marketing expert. So, in your opinion, is there a kind of substitution of notions, which means that, yes, you work with the final audience, but on my way here, I listened about Germany. It was said about games and gamification, and I actually spent a lot of money in Germany, and I can't imagine that people with whom I went there would post or repost something and participate in a game to win this. So my impression is that there are some people who play those games, and there are other people who are tourists who really go to a country. Is there a correlation between those two audiences? Well, actually, I don't know. Excellent, but what do you think? What I think about this is that even though I'm a performance guy, I believe that you can use this opportunity, but it's not a solution to all problems. I believe that we can use those KPI metrics if we influence this result. If the tourist office doesn't influence the result, the number of tickets sold, then of course we can use those metrics, but there is no need for them. It will just be the quasi-metrics, the coverage and so on. As for your second part, I agree with you, because to put it a bit more seriously, it turns out that the audience who is actively engaged in games and contests is not the audience who really buys the products, but we need to go on a case-by-case basis here. Well, I think no one goes on a case-by-case basis. Well, as for the case, which is launched jointly with Radio 7 and a hotel chain, we are preparing a contest by the 14th of February, and the goal is to post your a photo of your kiss on Instagram, and about 40% of those photos are the photos that were made in Dominican Republic. So these people really travel there, and they are ready to go there once again. But this is one individual case. You can't generalize there. One of my colleagues said a very good idea. We need to look at the stage of this vortex, because if we are someone who is well known on the Russian tourist market, then this campaign, which results in more awareness building, has a point. But there are other stages of marketing promotion, and there you need a different advertising campaign. So it all depends on the stages. So what's the coverage of the target audience? If you go on YouTube, there are a lot of videos saying how kids play Minecraft, and other kids just watch how other kids played Minecraft. The coverage is great, is huge there. So it would seem that it's great to have a great coverage, but the audience is wrong. This is what confuses us. Alexei, when you talk about tourism offices and the destinations, don't forget that our goal, our results, can have a delayed effect. That is, you do not participate in our contests, but we love contests. Today you don't participate, but we know that you are our target audience today. But nevertheless, it's your kids, it's your nephew who can take part in them. And in 5 years, if we do this stage-by-stage work, then these people will say, yes, Hong Kong is great, it's the Asian New York. They will remember something. And there is one more point. We cannot really put everything into one pile, into one heap, because within the target audience of each specific country, we have several segments. In Holland, for example, we have 3 target audiences. You, like an experienced traveler who really appreciates their time, and there is a very young audience, the so-called funky young professionals, who will actually participate in our contests. And talking about KPIs, I agree with Raphael, who said that unfortunately the main KPI that our ministry appreciates is the number of tourists. And it's clear that we don't have a direct impact on that KPI. Of course, if the flow of tourists keeps growing, this is our merit. But there are also a lot of economic factors and other factors which build this market. But there are customers who really have a deeper insight into those data. They don't want to increase the number of tourists. They want to have a categorization within this number. That is, if earlier there were 100 tourists for 1 day or 2 days, they want to have the same 100 tourists in 5 years, but they want those tourists to stay for 3 days. So this means that we are not going to do all our campaigns for the high season. We are going to get our clients interested in the low season. That's what I mean. So we can't just generalize and talk about KPIs in a generalized way. because within each KPI there are a lot of sub-factors and sub-KPIs. I was called here to cause some kind of conflict of interests, so I beg your pardon if I say something that upsets you. But after talking with these businesses, or with any business where it's difficult to calculate anything, I had the impression that people just come up with some metrics, they just invent them, and then they defend those metrics to the last ditch. Because people still say those children will go there in 10 years, but we can't say if they will go there in 10 years. There are very few studies about that. But there are other KPIs. Let's say, what is the percentage of people who went to a specific country and then placed photos on their page and wrote something about this country. So their goal is to increase those indicators. For example, we want 50% of people to post their photos. So I believe that this KPI is much more efficient. It really involves people, because if my friend wrote, wow, that country was cool, then something will push me to go there as well. For example, I went to Rosa Hutor on my weekend. I didn't have the time to post my photos yet, but I think I could encourage others to go there. So we need to do this opportunity, because people sometimes take beautiful photos. It's so beautiful, and there is no Wi-Fi. But if there is a Wi-Fi on the bus and there's the slogan hashtag, and we make we give prizes and awards, then it might push a person in a certain direction. So whether there is a KPI or not, but we need to find the best KPIs to avoid the substitution of notions, because it's not just about the coverage. We take one blogger who has 10,000 readers and 10 bloggers who have 100,000 readers. But what's the percentage of overlap there? Maybe there is an overlap. Maybe the same readers read all the bloggers. That's what has been mentioned before that. A lot of destinations, and particularly hotels, do everything possible to make sure that people who come there share their experience. And these publications are like advertising, and their friends and friends of their friends see them. And this is done on the territory of each hotel. There is a sculpture with hashtags and calls for action to put likes and put information on accounts. And the quantity of UGC content keeps growing now, and it's a paramount instrument, a paramount tool for promotion. But if there is a group of tour operators who do this, do you have any statistics for this KPI? If I was the tourism office in Sochi and you came to Rosa Hutor, to our destination, you've already added yourself to this KPI. You are already a tourist. But here there is the question whether you post your photo on your Facebook page or not. That depends on how cool the infrastructure is, how great it is. If this is Mauritius, for example, the satisfaction rate is high. And it's clear that the percentage of people who will write something, who will post something, is high. But we cannot influence you directly to make you post something. We can do this ideally, but in the realities that we don't have sufficient human resources to do this detailed research. If you are talking about marketing, if some people believe that they can't affect me to do something, well, then we should all leave this room, because a market expert should always be able to influence someone. Can I make a small provocation? Because I'm a bit bored here, so a small provocation. If you ask me who is the best, the most successful developer in Moscow, we can calculate this based on the margin and so on. But how do you assess the best national offices for tourism in Russia? Do you do this? I'm really interested. Is it just one campaign which has 500 reposts, or how do we calculate it? Because I believe that with Sochi, where the ticket prices fall by 2,000 rubles, if this ticket price falls, then it will be much more effective than any campaign. The case is that it's much more difficult to calculate this in tourism. Now that we chose those cases and I know who is the most advanced, I can tell you about it, but I won't do it. Let me explain. Maxim, we have the following situation in the industry. We have the most advanced and digital national offices here. Many of their colleagues are only taking their first steps in the digital sector, and the tourist industry is only at the beginning of its path. And the other important thing is that it's not just buying some bread. For a person to go abroad, you need either political factors or the aviation factors. And sometimes I ask the following question to the national officers. Colleagues, how do you calculate your efficiency? And they tell me, we look at the tourist flow. And I say, but this is the tourist operators who do this, who set charter flights. And they say, yes, but it means that we work well. So how do we measure this? Even before going to digital, this is already a difficult question. But in the digital sector, we can measure coverage. Usually it's a misconception. Well, when the Turkish National Office placed billboards in Moscow and other cities of Russia, you can't measure anything here. But here we can at least measure the coverage, and that's great. You can measure a lot of things, but sometimes notions are substituted here, particularly for expensive destinations. I'm not talking about mass-scale destinations. And it turns out that we have a huge coverage, but is it sufficient? Does it really make a change? If, for example, a kid told something to the other kid, and this kid told this to their parents, and the parents bought this trip, so did this affect anything? That's a big question. Of course, it's difficult to answer that. But when you go to a tourist agency and buy a tourist package, I just know the B2B area very well. When the tourist agency proposes certain destinations, you should know something about this country. If the agent tells you, would you like to go to Macau? And you don't know anything about Macau, you will not go there. But if you played some games a long time ago, then you will remember about it. Yes, it's almost impossible to calculate this delayed effect. But I think any marketing industry has this problem, or faces this problem. Can I try to re-establish the reputation of tourism offices? All tourism offices have commercial partners, those who have sales KPIs, such as airlines, hotels, tour operators, and of course, different ministries have different budgets for cooperation with those partners. And here we have the KPIs you are used to, the number of tourists, the number of nights, and all of this is done jointly with those who have the sales tools. The sales offices aggregate those tools on their websites, and we do this with different destinations. So you can read about what can be done there and how it can be done. You can buy a tour via an aggregator, and it's also a KPI. So we are not talking about some complicated indicators like involvement or the number of likes, but the main indicator is the number of tourists who came to a country per year. If it goes up, it's great. It means that everyone works well. So everyone is lucky. All right, I understand that our time is up, and as a moderator, I have asked a lot of questions, and the idea that I would like to bring across is that the digital sector is great. You can measure a lot of things there, but you need to think about it. Do not measure what everyone measures. Think what else you can measure. Think about the indicators that might be interesting. If someone played a game, what percentage of them really went to this country? You can look at the overlap of people. You can look at who actually bought the charter flights. So you can look at those numbers. And right now, marketing is becoming a complicated form of mathematics with psychology. And you really need to use this psychology in the correct way. Some people are just saying, wow, there are numbers in digital, let's just measure everything. So, colleagues, thank you very much.